Yours is still sharing right now.
Mine is still sharing. All right. How do I unshare? I hit new share, and I don't see any button to unshare.
So there should be a share button, and I wonder if from there you hit it, it has like a unshare.
I hit it, and then it just vanishes and keeps sharing. How about pause share? My screen sharing is paused. Wait, stop share. Aha. That might have done it. Can you share now?
Now I can share.
Good. Okay. Then I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Does this sound better? I hooked up a different mic.
It sounds okay, and I can see it too. Looks like we're on the road.
All right. Good deal. Well, everyone, thank you very much for giving me your time. Sam, thank you very much for giving me your class for this time here. And hopefully this is valuable to people. I've got it slated for 30 to 45 minutes, some questions and things like that. To me, it's more important for me to answer your questions than it is to kind of get through the presentation. So feel free to ask questions in between and make fun of whatever, and we'll just kind of kick it off from there. So who am I? So you're getting this talk from someone who's a security specialist currently. I've been in InfoSec full-time since 2000. It was actually my Christmas present to myself to get a job in full-time InfoSec. Before that, I'd worked in IT, and while I did security, back in the day when I did security, it wasn't looked well upon because of the things I kind of did. So I was writing a fine line there, and I wanted to be able to do this full-time without getting in trouble or getting my hands swatted. So it was a present to myself there. The first 11 years, I worked specifically financial services, doing defensive work, building security operations centers, firewalls, IDS, all that good stuff. Then I've had a run as a professional services consultant, so going around to companies around the country, kind of helping them out with their programs, helping them do things as well. And then on top of that, I'm a father, husband, and dog sitter. You can see my two dogs here, and they're the reasons I don't get work done sometimes. So you can see Ziggy over there is telling me that it is time to play, not time to work. And so these are things that are important just because later on in the presentation, you'll kind of understand why. So the big disclaimer, these are my own thoughts. These are opinions based on my own life experiences. They're definitely not the only way to go. Your mileage may vary with what I have to say based on who you are, the experiences that you have. Please take everything I say here with a grain of salt. There is no definitive anything going on here. It's just something to chew on, something to get you to think about that you may not have thought about before. There's no single road to having a great career, and there's no single road to having a horrible career. I've seen on Twitter, people have asked, how do they get into InfoSec? And there's a few people who are really good at their job, have a great career, and they didn't even finish high school. They have GEDs. Then we have other people out there who were, in college, didn't even know what a server was necessarily, and she was in her sophomore year. But today she's an awesome reverse engineer. So there's no one way, there's no, best way to get it. Everyone kind of has their own path. So this is where we're starting out at. We're trying to figure out where you're going to be in your career right now. I'm assuming that you're in the college, but you don't have a career yet or a job yet doing security full time. So your choices are really, your defensive side, your blue team side, your security operations, building the infrastructure to catch bad things, things along those lines, or the offensive side if you're going to be more penetration testing or red team. You can do documentation, which means you're going to be an auditor. The problem is everyone hates auditors. I don't even think they like themselves, honestly, a lot of times, but that is a position out there. Account management's another one, but it's really, really, really boring because all you're doing is adding users and groups and permissions and things like that. And unless you plan on automating it, it's definitely not the way to go. There's other, positions here and there, but those are probably the main ones you're going to see out there in the market. So the big catch-22, you have unrealistic expectations from HR people, from companies when they write their, job descriptions of what they want, asking for experience in things that don't exist or asking for years of experience for a technology that's just brand new. It's kind of crazy there. People asking for experience of a senior level position. I've experienced this where I'm at locally that they've asked for someone with 10 years of experience, but it wasn't even a senior level job. And I had to talk with the recruiter and explain, that's kind of crazy. You don't expect anyone with 10 years experience to come in at just out of school level for salary and benefits and things. Or they want you to master everything, including phones, printers, and faxes. And this is another thing where people don't know really what they want. And unfortunately, HR has kind of been thrown into this. They have a hard time doing tech jobs. It's even harder doing security because it's so ambiguous. If you go out there and you do a search, you're going to see people are usually like security engineers, security analysts, maybe a couple of other handful of things. But if you look at what the responsibilities of someone are, someone could be a security engineer and have nothing to do with engineering. It's just the title that the company has given those people for HR. And so HR is stuck with trying to figure out how do they get the right people into these jobs, and they don't know. They get a requirement from someone in the company. They do their best to look, but unfortunately, a lot of the times there's a big disconnect between the position and the information that's posted versus what the job actually requires. And on top of that, what the manager asked the HR person to go look for. And you end up with things like where the description doesn't sound like the job title. I was looking for one about a year ago. It said they were looking for a threat hunter. We started going through the interview process, and they wanted someone to do documentation for the next 36 months. I said, well, where's the threat hunting in that? They're like, oh, well, you'll get to threat hunting, but right now we have a huge need for compliance, and we need someone to sit there and do documentation on, all these different processes and GDPR that's coming down. Like, then why don't you hire someone for that? This is not a threat hunting position. So I declined that one. So it's just understanding what you're looking for, knowing what you want to go for, and just being more aware of it. So how do we break that catch-22? So in my opinion, writing a blog and keeping it up to date is something that is a great way for a hiring manager to see what you know, because unfortunately a resume doesn't express all you know. It doesn't express your learning process. It doesn't express a lot of things about the way you work, but a blog can help people see how interested you are in tech. Specifically in security, they can see the problems you're trying to solve or what you're working through. It helps them also understand your writing ability and your communication ability. These are things that as a hiring manager are very useful to me when I was a hiring manager, because a lot of times for an entry-level person, I would get oh, I love information security. Oh, I've always wanted to be in information security. I'm like, great. So what have you done to date to get in here? And the answer is just a blank stare. And what it turns out is they love the idea of getting into information security, probably because they didn't like their current job and it was something new and exciting for them. But at the end of the day, it didn't help me understand if they would actually be able to do the job or not. Writing code or scripts, putting them out on GitHub, again, getting people to see what your abilities are. To the person that's breaking all these sites that Sam has and putting the kittens up there, kudos to you, whoever you are. That's awesome. Being able to write about what you did and things like that gets that exposure so people can know more about who you are and what you're capable of doing. And even if you don't do any hacking stuff, you can solve weird problems and just talk about it on your blog, have some scripts out there. Again, it's about showing what you know, showing that you have creativity, showing that you have some type of idea of what you're looking for, showing people your thought process. These are all important things that are really hard to get across in a resume. One thing you have to understand when you're putting out a resume is, as a hiring manager, I've got hundreds of resumes to review per position on top of my regular job. So imagine having your regular 40-hour work week, and then here's 40 resumes to review, and each resume is, let's say, between 2 and 5 pages. How do you honestly think that's going to get reviewed? The person's not going to be able to review every single one of them. So what I do is I look for things that stand out. I look for people that stand out. And this is something just to kind of think about when you're putting your resume out there and thinking about how to get that first job. Certifications are another big one because everyone wants to have the CISSP. Sam talked about it. It's highly valuable. But the interesting thing, it says that you have to have 5 years of full-time experience before you can apply for the CISSP. So that definitely doesn't sound like an entry-level certification. However, you'll see a lot of places where that you have to have it. The DoD has a set if you're going to go into a government type job where they have a bunch of different certifications that they want you to have based on the level of job that you want to have. And those are great things because at least they tell you where to go in terms of certification and knowledge, which is a good thing to kind of help you get started out. But there's something that's missing there, and it's basic IT sysadmin or network operations knowledge. When I got into security, I'd already been a sysadmin and a network admin. So for me, security was just a step up. I already understood network. So helping out putting the firewalls together and migrating from a PIX to a Checkpoint Firewall 1 was very natural. There was a lot of things that just kind of fit. And then I moved into intrusion detection. And all of that was fairly easy for me because I had the background in networks and I had the background in operating systems. So it made my job much easier. Today, I've gone out there as a consultant and I see a lot of SOCs where people are coming straight out of school directly in a SOC and they don't know what to do because they don't know how operating systems work. They don't know how Active Directory works, permissions work, all these different things. So when they're trying to respond to an incident, it makes it hard because they don't have the knowledge to go around it. They don't have the knowledge to start knowing what questions to ask or where to even start looking with things. And so sometimes it's kind of good just say, I'm going to go get my feet wet. I'm going to go maybe help desk or sysadmin type work, for a year or two, get my feet wet, understand how companies work, corporate politics, all these other things, and get some more knowledge before you move into the security space. For learning outside here, Sam seems to do an excellent job in giving a lot of hands-on exercises, a lot of real-world practical things to learn so that way you have valuable skills when you actually graduate. There are other places you can go as well. Hackthebox.eu is a great place, especially for those people preparing for their OSCP. It's free. You have all these boxes you can play with. If you have the money, you can pay $100 to get their VIP level and you get access to more boxes and there's a little bit special treatment there. But it's nice because at least you have a large playground to play with and not have to worry about getting in trouble. Pen Tester Lab also has a lot of free things out there. They also have their professional labs for a nominal fee. Under the Wire is great because it's very PowerShell specific. So get your feet wet solving problems with PowerShell. And then Under the Wire has been around for a long time, multiple style challenges, crypto challenges, buffer overflow, logic, all these different things. And the idea is just getting you to solve problems, because that's really, at the end of the day, what security is a lot about is solving problems, solving unique things, finding solutions and creative ways to get the job done. The Sands has a great one, the Holiday Hack Challenge. It's a fun one. It's a pretty big deal. They make it every year. It usually has a theme that goes along with it. And even if you don't know what you're doing yet, you have a long time before the next Christmas comes around. So go ahead and see the other ones that have been done. Read the write-ups on them to see how people have solved it, because you can learn a lot by seeing what other people have done. You'll learn new techniques. You'll learn new tools, different ways to think about problems and kind of help yourself out. If you're into reverse engineering, FireEye has a great Flare challenge. Again, these are great things, not just to accomplish, but to be able to put on your resume and to get your name out there to kind of get a little bit more known in the community. You could do capture the flag competitions. They're really great things, but sometimes they may be a little bit too hard or daunting for people. You could always look at the write-ups, see how people solve their problems. Look at multiple write-ups for the same challenges and see how do different people solve it. Is there one that was a little bit more elegant, or find a new way to do things that no one else knew about doing? If you're a veteran, take advantage of companies offering free training. I think Splunk has a certain amount of training they offer for veterans. AWS has things offered for veterans. Secure ID is an awesome security company. They offer a lot of their classes. You can get the videos for free if you're a veteran. And there's a lot of places out there that are going to offer things for vets. So learn to take advantage of that so you can help yourself out. I'm a big advocate of having a home lab, because there's so much you can do and learn and be able to understand how things work that you're not going to want to do at work. You may not have the ability to do at work. I use the VMware's vMug Advantage. So for about $200 a year, I get access to VMware Workstation, ESXi, NSX, all these different products that allow me to have a nice lab. So right now I'm running a HP Z620 with about 96 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of SSD. And I have, I think, about 20 machines running inside of it right now. So it's a small lab. Sorry, what?
No, they want it louder, but it can't get any louder. So I'm telling them just move closer.
Gotcha. So, it's a great thing to do, to use that. It does cost money, but you'll see later on, I talk about investing in yourself. It's not that bad. $200 a year isn't something that's totally horrible. Servers, you can get them on eBay for relatively cheap. Microsoft has trial licenses, 180-day trial licenses, I believe, or 90-day trial licenses. You can use those and, be able to download those and use them until they expire and just download the new ones. You need to definitely get out there with the cloud. This is something that kind of hurt me in my career, is I saw the cloud coming. I just didn't fully understand it or appreciate what it was going to turn into. And so I fell behind in there. And there's so many different things that are done in the cloud that are not done in your on-premise network. And companies are going there, like it or not. They may not like it, they may move back, but for right now, companies are going into cloud environments, and you have to understand the terminology, the technology, the good, the bad, the different, how to secure it, how to monitor it. Um, so you can usually get free accounts in all of them, or a low end account, something that's affordable, just to be able to play around in there, spin things up, get a feel for it, and get a little bit of experience. DevOps and automation is a huge thing. Even though it's a lab and you only have a handful of machines, having the experience of to run something like an Ansible, a Puppet, or a Chef, to be able to get a feel for how do you automate all of these tasks. You're not doing everything one by logging into every VM manually, changing settings, and deploying software, because that is a skill that'll help you greatly when you have to do it across, dozens of machines or hundreds of machines. Last thing, learn how tools and techniques work under the hood. That's something you can end up writing a blog about, or adding more code to something. But a lot of times people just download security tools and use them and don't really know what it's doing under the hood. In a lab environment, you can turn on packet tracing, net flow tracing, debug logs, all sorts of different things to start understanding how does that tool really work, so when you use it, you can get the maximum use out of it. So beyond the technical skills out there, something that people don't think about is learn about the business that you work in. Because at the end of the day, unless they're a security company, security is not what makes them money. You have to understand what makes them money, what are their goals, because that's what we have to align ourselves to. When we don't understand the business and we're so focused on being just technical and not understanding how do I help the company move where it wants to go, they're not going to want to listen to me very much, just because we usually have a negative connotation that goes with information security. And we need to understand what are their concerns, what are things that they need to do, and then how can we help them get there in a secure fashion. Learning to speak to different groups and different levels of people. Unfortunately, most people, when we come into our career, we're tech heads. We love tech. The more techy, the better. The bigger the smile on our face, the deeper you go, the happier we get. But unfortunately, when you're talking to managers, to business people, to higher ups in the company, we have to find a way to convey the same information without all the technical speak. And this is something that's really, really hard for people, but it's extremely valuable. A couple of months ago, we were at an engineering all hands meeting, and one of our senior architects was there. Really, really smart guy, has a PhD, and he happened to be hanging out with our chief revenue officer. The conversation lasted all of 10 seconds before the chief revenue officer's eyes glossed over, because this senior tech person went straight into the weeds with technology and didn't try and speak at a different level. The good thing is it was a learning moment for him, and so now he's working on changing the way he approaches conversations based on his audience. And so this is something just to kind of keep in mind. Definitely work on improving your writing skills, because it's part of our communication, and we have to get beyond this 140 character limit that Twitter has imposed, be able to get our thoughts across clearly, because we're going to be dealing with many people who are not technical, not just in IT or security, but we might have different business units that we're working with, and we have to find a way to get across the information that we need to get across to them. And we also have to make sure that we document things so that other people know what we're doing in there. This also goes into improving your overall communication skills with people. This could be talking, this could be, presenting. There's so many different ways that we communicate, and we have to see what are the best ways to communicate within my company, and then how do I use those to the best of my ability. And the bottom one here, learn to negotiate. This isn't just about salaries. This is learning to negotiate many things, because a lot of times you're going to come in and have to deal with a business, and no is not the appropriate answer, but allowing them to work the way they want to work is also not an appropriate answer. So learning to negotiate with people to find a happy medium between what your objectives are and their objectives are, so that both sides can feel a win and there isn't as much animosity between the groups, so that things can move forward at a better pace. Learning to empathize with people, this is something I wish I knew. When I first got into security, it was at a financial institution down in Florida. And the security consultants that were there before us, I'm not sure exactly how they got hired, but they were atrocious to the business units. They would run around telling people they're going to get fired because the security consultants broke into all these systems and just went around just making a really bad reputation. So when We got hired as the official security department for this company. We had to undo all the reputational damage they did, helping people understand just because I'm in information security doesn't mean I'm going to try and get people fired, doesn't mean I want to get people in trouble with their job or, help them not get the promotion or, stop them from getting a raise. That I want to be there to help them do their job, that I'm trying to find ways to work within their budgets, within, their constraints, and kind of help them move forward. That helped them a lot, and it also helped me a lot. Being approachable is part of that. If they don't feel like they can come and talk to you about things, there's a lot they're not going to tell you. There's times people are going to want to be able to come to you off record and say something just because they really generally want to do the right thing, but they don't know how to get it done. They might not have the power to get it done, or maybe their voice isn't as loud and they weren't able to get it done. But being able to have that approachable personality, allowing people to be able to come up to you, to have these types of conversations and help move things forward. Teach others. This is a big thing. Sam's, he's a teacher and he's teaching others, but there's so many times we could take to teach others as well. When you teach other people, you'll find out how much you really know. You'll find out that you may know more than you thought you know. And usually in my case, I find out I know less than I thought I did. And it's a time for me to kind of, be humble about it, to learn a little bit more and kind of move forward there. Something that we're really bad with is solving with simplicity. For some reason, IT people love complexity, right? The crazier the diagram, the crazier the network diagram or the architectural diagram, the cooler it is, the more we can puff our chest and say, man, check out all these things I had to do to make it work. At the end of the day, all we've created is a really hard system to maintain. I don't want to do that anymore. I like to have things simple. I like to think about the problem and all the options and then find the simplest way to solve it, because that also has to be something that not only I can maintain, that someone else can maintain also. The simpler it is, the easier it is for you to configure, the easier it is for troubleshooting, upgrading. Everything is much nicer when you solve things with simplicity. Don't take yourself too seriously. We tend to think that we have a lot of power in security. We run around with this, baseball bat in our hand mentality, thinking we're just going to beat everyone in the company into submission with our ideas and force them to do exactly what we want them to do. And it doesn't work very well. We have to learn to joke with ourselves, to laugh at ourselves, just to be able to enjoy and understand everyone's trying to do a job. We have a job to do. They have a job to do. But unfortunately, if we're going to fight about it, they're probably not going to work with us very well. There's a point in my career where I thought I wanted to be famous, to, be able to have, oh man, I heard of that guy. I want to be invited to all these conferences. And I was talking to someone else who is kind of famous. He didn't ask to be, but he is. And he said, Neil, being famous in InfoSec is like being a famous bowler. I'm like, what do you guys think about it? No one really cares. He goes, my girlfriend doesn't care. She really doesn't know what I do. And she knows I do security something or other, but she has no clue outside of my little world. And so that famous thing, whatever you're looking to be, it's such a small little world, it's not worth chasing. If it happens, it happens, but it's not something that, I look for anymore. There's life outside of work, go live it. This is something hard because when you're in this type of environment, it's kind of hard to see things outside. If you work from home, it's even really harder. I work from home 100%. So for me, it's extremely hard to remember this. In fact, I realized today when I went to work out that the last time I left the house was 2 days ago when I worked out. And that's not really good for me. It's not good mentally. It's not good physically. And so remembering there's more to life than just working all the time. Get out there and network with people. Go to conferences, go to meetings, go to different areas where you're going to find people that can help you in your career so that they can know who you are and you can know them. There are a lot of times jobs are out there, but they're not necessarily posted. Or you might meet the hiring manager or someone who knows a hiring manager as you're networking, and that helps you bypass the HR issues that they have. This is something that's been very helpful in my career because I don't meet a lot of requirements that they need. I don't have a degree. I did graduate from high school, but I don't have a master's degree. I don't have certain things that would get me banned right away just because HR deems me unqualified. But by meeting with managers, with meeting other things outside of the work area, helps people to see who I am, and I've been able to bypass certain HR systems because of it. LobbyCon is a great thing. This is when you go to a conference and you just hang out in the lobby to meet with people. There's a lot of times there's conferences where they might be sold out, but the lobbies are still open for people. You get to meet people from all different companies. You get to find out about who's, there, who's talking, what companies are available. A lot of times out there, there's job postings. So Mubix is really good. He has a Google sheet that he puts out. So for certain conferences that he's going to, they post all the people that are going to be hiring out there. They post if it's going to be remote or not. Is it relocation? Is it not? What type of job, some job descriptions, and the contact information of the person to talk to. So when you're at the conference, you can actually get information about the job, possibly do an interview while you're out there. So it's a great way to just get out there and get your foot in the door. Make sure your resume is impeccable. This is something I've seen people do where they just throw a resume together last minute and it looks exactly that. The problem is that resume only gets your foot in the door. Like I said before, if I was a hiring manager and I've got to look at 100 and something resumes for the position, I'm probably not going to be able to look at every single resume in depth. I'm going to have to skim them over and just, whatever jumps out at me, unfortunately. And so you have to think about that when you're looking at your resume. That's the first impression. What are they going to think about you when they get that? Remember, your resume only gets you in the door. So that leads into the second part, that don't lie during an interview. If you don't know something, just admit you don't know it, but then go learn what you didn't know. I've been in situations where if we see it on a resume, it is full game. It's okay to ask about it. And the more we start going down and down in the weeds on particular subjects, we start to find out that people were not as honest as they should have been on their level of knowledge on certain things. We had one person who claimed to be very well versed in a SIM product. And after we busted him, he admitted that he spent 30 minutes shoulder surfing someone a couple of days ago in preparation for the interview. And so don't be that person. If you don't know something, you don't know it, and that's fine, because at some point it is going to come out, and that's not where you want to be. Interviews are a two-way street. This is something I haven't done until recently. It's not just about them interviewing you, it's you interviewing them, because this is where you're going to be at for the next few years or however long you're going to be. And you want to understand, okay, what is our culture like? What are certain things that you would like to see happen? What are things that you definitely want to avoid? Kind of get a feel for who they are and what they are, because you don't want to get into a job where you absolutely hate it. You want to be able to make sure that you're going to be a good fit for them just as much as they're going to be a good fit for you. So this is where I get to talk like an old guy, because I am old. It's a lifestyle. Most people I've seen in information security, it's a lifestyle. It's something that they do, they love doing it, they can't stop doing it. It's just part of it becomes an addiction because of this. You're always thinking about it, you're always trying to solve a problem, you're doing something, and it's hard to break away from this. The other thing is, it can be a very hostile environment. If you're on Twitter and there's Twitter fights all the time, there's things all the time, and you have to be prepared. Unfortunately, you got to have a little bit of a thick skin, because there are sometimes people who are going to disagree with you and make it very publicly known, and it's just the way it is. Sometimes you just have to find ways to work through that. Have a hobby outside of computers. This is something that, I've taken up jiu-jitsu and CrossFit, and I enjoy it. There's so much more outside of computers. It's just sitting here all day at a desk is not good for you health-wise. Is not good for you mentally either, to sit in a dark place with, stale air, not a lot of windows or sunshine, just sitting there all day staring. Work out regularly. You don't want your body to fail you. You will feel much better and more energized when you get up to go work out. On the days where I'm sitting at home and I realized I haven't moved, I understand why my brain wasn't fully functioning. But getting up, going, getting my workout on, getting the blood flow going helps me physically. It helps me mentally, because I'm feeling better that I've accomplished something and I can go forward and move at the pace I should be moving at. Learn to help people on your way up. Don't be that person that steps on everyone to make a career. Help everyone up, because then they're going to be there hopefully to help you up as well. There's so many people out there that need help. You've got a great teacher there who's helping you to be able to learn things. Be the same way as you move forward, because that's going to come back around to you. When you're past your prime and you're who's left standing with you, those are the people you want to invest in and focus on. It's not about being the InfoSec rock star like I talked about before. It's not being famous within the security community. You want to make sure that The people that really matter are the ones you invest in, because when Twitter gets hostile and for some reason you find yourself on the end of an attack, you want to make sure that you have people there that can lift you up, kind of help you, and help you deal with the situations that are there. It's a very small community, so don't burn your bridges. People will know of you somehow, some way, some shape, some form. And so if you leave on bad terms, even if you're fully justified in leaving, in a way that you think is appropriate, take a minute to think about it. It's better to take an L, take the loss, leave on a high note, leave in a very professional manner. Don't burn your bridges, so no one can have anything negative to say about you regardless of the situation. It's also kinds of go into don't being a jerk. I've met a lot of security people who are very much just a jerk. There's no other nice way to describe it. I would describe it another way, but I don't want to be a jerk describing them. But at the end of the day, we're all still learning. No one here is an expert. We may be a little bit more proficient in some areas than others, but there are a lot of areas where we have no idea what we're talking about. We have no idea. We just need to admit it. So just remember, everyone has something to offer for the most part. Everyone's going to be a newbie in some area. And so just think of it that way, that we're all just here kind of helping each other out. Don't put people on pedestals they didn't ask to be put on. When you go to conferences and you see these people up there speaking, or people who have written blogs, or have great Twitter handles that are doing something, they're regular people. They're probably not doing it for the fame and fortune. They just did it. They're trying to help the community. They didn't ask to be put on a pedestal. It just kind of came. So don't put them on. They're regular people. Go up and talk to them, buy them a drink, whatever, talk shop, talk life, whatever. But just remember, everyone is just human at the end of the day. Use your PTO days. How many people work because they're so afraid to take time off? You will burn yourself out. You will not like your job, and you may not like your life if you don't get time to relax. This is something that I've seen, especially in the IT environment, is people feel very compelled to work all the time and never take time out for themselves or their family, in fear that they're going to be passed up for a promotion, they're going to be passed up for the next great assignment or project. You've got to take time off. You have PTO days, use them. Max out your 401ks. You're starting out early in your career. You want to be able to retire. You don't want to be that person who's 60, 70 years old being a greeter at Walmart or Target or something like that. Invest early on in your career. Get a financial manager, or talk to someone who's a financial manager to help you figure out how to get that started, because you don't want to be like I was in my 40s trying to figure out, I didn't really save that much. I don't have anything to fall back on. It's not a good place to be. I have to work significantly harder on it just because I've started out much later. This is an area that you can take advantage of time to be able to start out and be able to keep a small, consistent amount going away to help your future and to help prepare you for those days. Invest in yourself and your career. Whether it's buying the VMUG Advantage or servers off of eBay, investing in books, investing in going to conferences, investing in tools for you to learn something new. Whatever it is you have to do, think about everything that you're doing. Is it an investment? Is it something that you believe is going to have some type of return? And what are the chances of getting a good return on it? A lot of times it's hard to spend money on certain things because you just have a hard time biting the bullet. Right now, I would like to buy some more servers. I've been encouraged to buy more servers, but I've been limping by my one server right now. And it's hurting me a little bit just because there's so many things I'm limited on doing by having a limited amount of hardware. So you got to learn to invest in yourself and figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Be realistic about it. So these are some great things to kind of check out here. So the top one is from Hackers for Pancakes, Leslie Carhart. Great blog out there, and this is, she has one on about starting an information security career. It's a good one. The second one's from Danielle Messier, another great blog on building a career. And the last one has absolutely nothing to do with being in career, but it's a great thing to read just because you get to see how someone solved a very interesting problem. And remember, before I talked about just solve a problem, this is someone, I don't even think they're in security, but they went and solved a very interesting problem, and they did a great job at documenting kind of how they did it. And it's CTF worthy, in my opinion, of the level of work that they went into it, the creativity, everything that they did to solve this challenge. So to me, these are really great things, that I see people doing out there. And So anyone have any questions? It's been very quiet. I don't know if it's because you can't hear me or.
Now they can hear you,
Okay.
but I bet they'll have questions. They usually do.
All right, well, fire away. I don't have anything else. I want to hear from them and, find out they agree, disagree, or, have more questions about what I said.
You got some? No? Oh, here we go. Yeah, come on up. Yeah.
Hi. You mentioned that it's a good practice to keep your blog updated, right?
Yes.
So what do you recommend to post there? Give us some examples.
Whatever you feel, whatever you like doing. Because if you feel forced to do it, you're probably not going to get around to do it. But if you say, here's a new technique that I read about maybe at the Troopers conference on Windows Active Directory security. So I set up my own lab. And, the first part of my blog is how I set my lab up, why I set my lab up. Then, I'm going to use the tool that they talked about, and I'm going to run that tool, but I'm going to turn on all these logs. And you could do whatever you want there. It could be a very defensive focused. It could be an architectural focus. You could talk whatever you want to do. You could take an open source project and say, hey, I was able to do this with this open source project. Here's something kind of neat that I did. You could treat your home network kind of like a mini corporate environment by setting up the various networking tools out there, whether it's free host-based monitoring or network monitoring, bringing it back into some type of log aggregation system, be able to run write dashboards or rules around it. Do anything you want to do and just talk about it.
Okay.
It really depends on what you want to do.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep, I could tell you to write about reverse engineering, but you're like, man, I don't want to reverse engineer. It's never going to happen. But if you find something that you really want to learn, it's a great way to learn, because what you'll find is a lot of people will say, I can't blog or I can't do a conference because I don't know anything. A great way to learn about something is by saying, I'm going to blog about it. Because now, as you're doing it and you're documenting it, that's all really your blog is a documentation of what you're going through, your process of, what you did in the lab, what you had to set up, what you learned, all those different things.
Any others?
I'll ask a question real quick. I'm sorry, I got here a little bit late, but I'm curious as to your thoughts on how much deep engineering knowledge you ideally need, or you seek being needed if you are working more at the business level for that to be successful within the security space.
What type of engineering are you talking about? More like a electrical, mechanical, computer engineer type thing?
Or security knowledge to be successful within the business domain of security, where would you say is most beneficial? Obviously, there's GRC and being on the business side in that capacity, but also maybe security operations and more on the management side. What level of knowledge do you think one person should have?
It really depends on where you want to come in. If you're going straight into the business side of it, like you're working for a security company, is that what you're talking about?
More security department for a company.
Okay, yeah. So if you're going into someone that has an InfoSec, you say, okay, do I want to work in the management side? Do I want to work on the technical side? A lot of great managers are not very technical. Different people have different management styles. Some people are managers who kind of rose up through the ranks. There are a lot of places though where people who are technical don't ever want to become a manager. I'm one of those type of people. So I look for companies that allow me to move up as a technical person without ever having to become a manager. It's what we call, being an individual contributor.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on the company on what their expectations are to the level of knowledge you have to have. A lot of times simply just understanding, because the higher you go up, the more you're almost a translator between the technical people and the business side. Your technical people are going to come to you with a problem, with an incident, and it's your job to be able to explain it to the rest of the businesses and the rest of the people above you. What does that mean to them?
So have you personally leveraged your career experience within that specific space towards security in order to do that, I guess? I'm just curious, if I am to make a move into security into some kind of management or individual contributor position, how would you leverage on the security domain knowledge?
So I use it all the time because I have to be able to speak to different people at different levels. I have to be able to understand what is this technical jargon that I want to explain. what does it really mean to them on their business side? So I talked about understanding the business. So I have to understand, what are their goals? What are their requirements? Do they have any regulatory requirements, legal requirements, business requirements that they want to achieve? And then how am I helping with that? Or what are ways that I might be, hurting them with that? What are ways we can work together to achieve the goal?
Thank you.
Because a lot of times they may want to do the right thing, but they don't understand how to do it. And security people historically have not been good at explaining how to achieve a good outcome in a way that comes across nicely. We're usually known as the people that say no all the time. We have the sledgehammer, we say no. And so unfortunately, because we've had this reputation for so long, it's going to take a long time to undo that. So when you go to businesses and you talk to them, take someone out to coffee. Don't meet in a room that they feel is hostile. Meet them on their grounds where they're at. Take them outside the business so they feel more comfortable to talk about things, and get to know people in their business and leverage all your knowledge you have to help solve the problems at hand.
I see that Ed has a question online. I've unmuted you, Ed. Why don't you speak up? Maybe, in text. Okay. He put it in text here. I don't know if it's going on the video. She says, isn't the only way to get good at this stuff to forsake the personal life?
No, do not do
this
that.
semester, he stopped working out and working on my artwork. Something had to give, and I'm still on not on a level where he feels comfortable competing. So I think he's probably not the only one with that feeling. So why don't you talk about that?
No, and this is why I said you have to realize you need a life outside of security. There will always be people better than you. No matter how hard you try, someone else will always be better. Just because they're better does not mean that you're not going to have a good job, that you won't have a good career, that you won't have a good life. There are many people out there that you'll never, ever hear of that work 9-to-5 jobs, spend a little bit of time outside of that, but are able to meet the goals that they set for themselves. When you get into this mentality that I've got to do it all, that I've got to be everything to everyone, that I can't sleep, I can't take vacation, all you're going to find is you're burning yourself out so much that your career is not going to be nearly as long as you'd like it to be. Because you're going to have stress, you're going to experience burnout, you might experience depression, all these other negative things that are going to stop you from moving forward. At the end of the day, no matter how hard you try, how much work you do, there's always stuff left undone. I have yet to meet anyone that can say, I got everything done that I needed to get done, and I feel like there's nothing else I could do. Because the problem is we always feel we could do more, because technically there's always something else to do. But understand where you want to put those boundaries and those limits, because you want to be able to live a long, prosperous life. Your career isn't just about this one job. You're setting a tempo. If you work super hard, think of it this way. If I work really, really hard now and I never take breaks and I never take PTO and I let all that time go, the company now expects that out of you. So 3 or 4 years down the road, you're feeling comfortable, like, man, okay, I've got this. I can start to slow down. Now the company's going to see you as, man, this person isn't a team player anymore. Maybe they're not as good. They're just starting to take time off. Unfortunately, that's how, one way that they could look at it, even though it's totally in your right to take time off. I would take time off, set limits, set good boundaries out there of when you want to learn, what you want to learn. You could be a lot more focused if you have very good outlines and goals and can stay on schedule to things. When you're scatterbrained, you're all over, you have, 10,000 fires going on at the same time, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to put out these fires and not move as far forward as you need to move. So I'd pick a couple of things to learn, focus on those, and just grind on them. For me, my biggest outlet has been Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There are a lot of times where I just get stuck at work. It's like I'm grabbing my gi, I go to work out. So like Saturday, I went and rolled open mat for 2 hours. Then Sunday, I rolled for an hour and a half. Mentally, I felt so much better. And now all of a sudden, I've got things that I solved Monday morning that I couldn't solve Friday evening. I didn't spend any more time trying to learn it. I didn't spend any more time. All the roadblocks were cleared just because whatever was in my head got kicked out of there. So I don't think this, forsaking a personal life is worth it. Remember in the beginning, I said there's a reason why we want to talk about I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a dog sitter, for that reason, right? I've got other people in my life that are important to me. They're the reason that I work partially. And so I got to make sure I'm there for them as well. So I take time out for everything. In fact, coming up here, I will be going on my 21st anniversary. I've got to take that time out, and I look forward to it. It's hard to say I'm not going to work for 2 weeks. What is going to go on? But guess what? Regardless of what I do, the world is going to continue to spin and do what it's always done before, with or without me.
All right. And Ed said, congratulations. I don't know if you can see it. Good.
Thank you.
All right. And okay. And yeah, and people are glad to hear about the work-life balance. I must say, I'm glad to hear this good answer. I remember I had a couple speakers come and students in the audience asked about work-life balance. And for a while, all of them just said, I don't know what that is. I just work all the time. I've heard about that, but I have no clue. And this is a much better answer, what you gave.
Yeah, I believe in a work-life balance. When it's a two-way street, when you're doing the interview, you need to find out about the culture of the company. Do they support work-life balance? Do they talk about it, but they don't achieve it? You want to find out how a company works? Find the closest coffee shop to the office that you want to work at. Hang out there. Start looking for the employee badges and start doing some social engineering and start talking to people about what is life like over there. Right? Do they really talk about it, or do they actually do it? What is it like to work there? And, you want to make sure that you're not walking into a toxic environment. You got to make sure you're going to be invested in. If you don't love it, you're not going to want to do it. There's a lot of people out there that are burnt out that really hate what they do. Do you want to be that person?
So how did you achieve this work-life balance? You have an intern working for you on the side?
No, I've been burnt out before. I've been burnt out. I've been stressed out. I've gone through many different cycles to figure out I really, really need to do this. I can't just talk about it, but I've realized that security is moving at a breakneck speed. When I was getting in security, I could know a little bit about everything, and man, I felt so good. But now there's so much out there, like DevOps. This is something I'm totally just a little bit above clueless in. I'm getting a little less clueless, but it's so much for me to learn. I've got to realize I've got a lot of smart people on my team. I'm leveraging them to help me learn about DevOps. I've got all these other resources I can use to help me learn, but understand at the end of the day, I'm never going to get everything done. And I've got to learn to be okay with that. I set goals because I need to know that I accomplished something. I need to know that I've set a goal. I've got goals that I absolutely have to meet. I've got goals that I really want to meet. And then, man, if I really knock it out of the park here, these super high goals. And this is something I set up with that our manager sets up with us. We go over them 4 times a year to kind of see where you're at. But they're good because now my boss knows what I'm trying to achieve. I know what I'm trying to achieve. We got to make sure that everything's in place to achieve those goals. And it's on me to kind of keep track of it. Because at the end of the day, you're the person that's responsible for your career. Your boss isn't, your job isn't. If you're not going to move your career forward, they probably aren't going to move it for you. And so you've got to determine what are the next steps. So I've already looked at what are the next positions that I have in the company. I've talked to my boss's boss, and the chief revenue officer to understand what does it take for me to move to that level. And then I try and have regular cadence, depending on who they are, how often, to find out what are things I'm doing good at. Get candid, constructive criticism on things I do bad at. Don't just say I suck. Don't just say, man, you're not good at this. Tell me, when did you see me do that in a way that was not as good as you thought or expected? What would you have expected? And try and find a way to move that needle forward.
So I guess one thing is people having someone for night shift, or not being the one, I guess, on call at midnight, right?
Yeah, I was on call for a lot, and that was very draining. So I started my career in 2000. I think almost until 2011, I could not take a vacation without taking all my equipment, my pager and cell phone and everything else with me, and it sucked. My family understood it, but even they now realize that now that I go on vacations where I don't have my work stuff with me, I don't have anything work related, it is so much more freeing for everyone. I truly come back refreshed because I'm not thinking about work. There's a little bit of anxiety. Now, I took a 2-week anniversary thing last year. I'm taking a 2-week one this year, and there's some anxiety building up. Like, man, what's going to happen in the 2 weeks I'm gone? Man, I'm going to have to catch up on yada yada. And guess what? It's still going to be there. nothing's going to change. I'm not going to affect the world in 2 weeks.
So do you think the companies are at fault for being a lack of like programmers or other skilled workers, or who would you like to say is at fault for the shortage?
Shortage of what?
Like programmers or workers that they're looking for. Oh, we have to get international workers with work visas, and we don't have enough workers in the U.S. to cover whatever field needs to be covered, which I hear.
Well, they don't want to pay people is the first problem, right?
Yeah.
They're worried about the cost. So that's one of the problems is they make an assumption that a degree from anywhere in the world is equivalent, and that's not necessarily true. A degree from certain countries may not be as reputable as degrees from another country. It is the way it is. Right? They're just focused on, I can get a warm body in a seat for a lower cost. And that's something that we have to deal with, because when I'm going up for a job and I'm saying, well, here's my requirements for a salary, and they're going, well, why are you significantly more than this other person? It's like, okay, well, you're getting what you pay for here. Look at the experience I'm bringing to the table. It has nothing to do with my education. In fact, when I was learning computers back in 1990, my computer class consisted of, this is a keyboard, this is a mouse, literally, because that's how old it was. The computers were a very new thing to us. In high school, we had typewriters and word processors. We did not have computers. When I was in the Marine Corps, the only people that had computers were high-level admin jobs, and it was pretty much a glorified word processor. So it's very different, and just saying, okay, this is what you're getting. Get a person with experience. These are the things I've done. So when I show up, day one, out of the box, outside of the nuances of the company and the politics and stuff like that, here are things I'm going to be able to do for you. And how does the company value that?
Are we headed more toward the Uber style of workforce, or do you see something different?
For security, I think it's a career. I think there are certain jobs where, yes, you're going to have to do that. So if you want to be the pen tester, if you want to be the bug hunter, yeah, you're going to be chasing yourself all the time. And it's risk and reward, right? You can make a killing doing that, but how many people can honestly make a killing doing that versus how many people are trying? You hear about the successes of, oh, I just got a $10,000 bounty on Facebook or Google or something like, yeah, you're one person, right? Is that a sustainable lifestyle though? I'm a little bit more old school. I like to know my paychecks come in every 2 weeks, that they're fairly, within a penny of each other. I have steady income. It increases over time because I'm working on my career and my own personal growth. There's certain things I like where I'm not having to chase it all the time.
Well, I don't hear much stories about the employment side saying, here's a nice housing area we got set up for you for all these employees they want to hire and come in. I don't see that much as a motivation, or I don't hear it on the news. Or like it's hard to get a place in San Francisco and others since it's so expensive.
It is, but think about it this way. You're going to take an entry-level job in a very high cost of living area. Yeah. Is it something that's doable? I have no idea. I live in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. It is very cheap to live out here. Now, the problem is there's not any jobs out here, so I have to work remote for anything I do. But the good thing is, as more companies are open to remote positions, my life is much easier because what I can afford out here is significantly more than I could do out in New York or San Francisco or a lot of those other crazy places. And I think that kind of helps out with the work-life balance as well. The problem when you're working from home is there's no, when do I turn it on and off? There's nothing to tell you because I don't have a different outfit when I walk into my office. There was, I think, a couple of 3 weeks ago, I went for 4 days straight without leaving the house, and I realized that, and that wasn't good. And I only realized it because I wanted to work out, and they're like, Neil, why did you want to run when it was 30-something degrees outside? I'm like, well, I just realized that me running outside today, doing these sprints, is the only time I've been outside in the last 4 days.
Okay. What's your strategy for negotiating your salary and benefits?
So understanding what they offer normal, trying to figure out what do you feel. So when you're starting out, it's a lot harder because you may not have something to fully offer them, but understanding, are they in an environment where they have a lot of people to choose from or not as many people to choose from? Figure out what do you feel a fair salary is. There's a lot of places out there that have basic salary calculators that will let you know, just the salary part, not taking into account your PTO days, stock options, all those other things. But being able to say, what you feel is fair. And it's no different than negotiating for a car. You start out high, you move lower. They're going to start out low, they're going to move higher, and you're going to meet somewhere in the middle. But you have to figure out what your minimum is that you're going to actually be able to walk away at and not have any qualms about walking away if they don't meet that salary or those expectations and the overall package that you feel you should be entitled to. Because the thing is, whatever salary you start out at that company is going to be about what you stay at. Very rarely do you see people being able to get significant salary increases staying at the same job. What you usually hear is people go job hopping company to company to company to get those significant increases. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just additional stress of looking for jobs, interviewing, and that whole thing.
All right, are there any more? Well, looks like that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me, everyone. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the recording then, and thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you, Sam.
Okay, farewell.
All right. Bye.
All right. And I can do